Hi, welcome to Sunshine Secret of OC. I'm your host, Lisa Huscher. Today, we're going to delve into the energies that move, guide, heal, sometimes make us laugh, and sometimes make us cry. So sit back and relax, and let's see what divine information comes through today. I'm very excited today. Brianna Brown is here with me, and you might know her from, oh my gosh, Devious Maids, Dynasty, Outer Limits, of course.
Yeah, Outer Banks.
Outer Banks, of
Yes.
course, which takes you to Outer Limits, right?
Yes.
But for me, my favorite is how you were an inspiration. You're an author, you're a speaker, and you're definitely a mentor for women.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Excited to have you. One of the things that really moved me about you, and you were a speaker at our Spark Joy retreat back in May, which thank you again for coming.
Oh my gosh, it was such an honor.
It was great. We had, I think it was like 40 women, but they were mesmerized by your talk.
Oh.
And they were mesmerized. And the thing that I noticed that stood out to me the most was your empathy, your compassion, and you had this ability to draw the women in. And so I was watching that, and I was thinking, that doesn't come from having the perfect life. The compassion and the empathy, and specifically with women that you're passionate about, comes from struggle.
Yeah.
And it comes from pain. And so you've earned that, you've earned that, but you've done a lot of work on yourself too. And you talk about, different ways of coping and healing. And so I just wanted you to kind of dive into that a little bit and share with us some of those things that you do to kind of keep balanced.
So much. And I think it's an ever-changing, different tools of my toolbox that I use and how often I use them to be able to stay grounded or connected. I think as women, depending on your relationship with other women growing up, like I didn't have a great relationship with women growing up. I was severely bullied by women when I was young, by lots of different groups of women. So I have a lot of empathy for that. I understand what that feels like. I also understand what it's like to feel, some of the negative things that we don't want to talk about, like envy or jealousy or, having real anger toward women, whether it's them trying to cheat on you, cheat with your partner, whatever those things are. Like, these human experiences that so many women, we just don't talk about. We just kind of gloss over. We want everything to seem perfect. And obviously being an actress, I've learned how to like do my hair, do my makeup, wear my outfits the right way, like to do all of that aesthetic stuff to make it look like your highlight reel is presentable. But the inner work, which is what you're talking about, I'm now a Reiki 2 practitioner.
Oh,
Yeah, next year I'll be a Reiki master.
Wow.
But energy work has always been important because I have been, like you, very empathic, very intuitive. I would absorb other people's energy. I didn't understand when I was younger why I would get a lot of negative energy from other women. I also, I had really bad cystic acne. I didn't wear the cool clothes. Like there's all these different things that kind of led to what then became extremely severe bullying. When I was 13, 14 is when it was kind of hit its pinnacle. But so I think being vulnerable, because I think so many of us, we want to put on a facade, whether it's for the male gaze or facade so that other women can't see like the parts of our armor that maybe have holes in it. We know these women who will see it and they'll make that little jab. I've never been that woman. I don't understand thinking in that way because I think, because of coming out to Los Angeles at 19, being told to sink or swim, all the various things that I went through physically, mentally, emotionally, even spiritually to kind of find my path on my own, I found like-minded women and that also wanted to support each other, that didn't have that catty competitive, point of view, which is why I boldly called it the new Hollywood. And then later it had a philanthropic aspect as well. But I think, when you aren't the person who will take a jab, or you see someone who's so insecure that they need to, and then be like, you're bet more than that. You don't need to put me down for you to be up. If anything, we can help lift one another up, or there may be something that I don't know to help you, and vice versa. So I think coming in with that energy when people are open to it, because we don't always really connect to people. When we really open up, then we're like, oh, okay, you're not gonna try and backstab me.
Yeah. And, one of the things, and I mentioned this earlier, that I noticed because I knew a couple of the girls that did share. So what was great about the retreat that we actually did was people were sharing vulnerability, and they were very comfortable sharing it with you. So that's when I'm saying your ability to draw people in was, I mean, some of them didn't want to stop talking, like not in a bad way, but I'm like, okay, we got to move to the next thing. We could have had a whole session, but really, and asking you a lot of questions, especially like, how do I get out of this? Yeah. I'm in it. Okay. Yeah. How do I take those steps to get out? Whether it be, an abusive relationship or, another female relationship like mom, kind of like you had with your mother as well, the narcissism, that kind of friction. What can you tell women? What is the first step?
I mean, it all kind of depends on where someone's coming from. I mean, obviously an abusive relationship, I see that a lot more, or people are more vulnerable with me about it when it's the women that are in my nonprofit that help formerly homeless single moms, right? So it's the alumni program for Harvest Home. So when I've done coaching with them and I realize like, oh, I'm in a severely abusive relationship where I'm like, oh, you're being hospitalized. Like, how do we get you out of this situation? I think first it's awareness of the why, right? So when like this one person I'm specifically thinking of, I'm like, you need to understand you didn't see love because you grew up in an orphanage. So your version of love is not healthy, right? So you just want to feel love. So you're now giving love to somebody who's also unhealthy, right? So how can you get out of that situation? How can you love yourself enough to not stay in that situation, right? Like, there's
identifying.
You got to first identify like, oh, and some of it doesn't really belong to you, right? Like, what was her mother like that led her to have to be in an orphanage? What transgeneral trauma am I carrying that doesn't fully belong to me, that I'm playing out in this lifetime, that it will be cyclical over and over and over again until I peel enough layers of the onion to say, okay, this is how I shift it so that my future children, or just energetically, I'm not dealing with this anymore. And
Which you did.
I've done that.
Which you did with your mom, right? Because you were able to separate that.
Yeah.
You carried it for a while, because I can feel like you carried it. But then, I mean, what a gift that you were able to identify. That's something that's very, very difficult. And especially for people that are empathic, sensitive, intuitive people. Is this my energy? Is this somebody else's energy? How to distinguish between I'm carrying something that was somebody else's and this is mine. So how do they know?
Well, I don't think it's, I think it's, it doesn't matter if it, who to blame, right?
I want to blame somebody.
But I mean, we can blame them and shame on them, and we should all be perfect and levitate, but that's not the human experience. So, but like if when I would realize like, wow, when I'd have all this self-doubt or I'd have all this insecurity, and I'm like, but where did I learn it?
Okay.
You know what I mean? Some of it, yes, you learn from other experiences in life, but you're like, okay, yeah, I was modeling what I saw. And, they should have been perfect. Well, guess what? They weren't. So, but they were better than other people's parents. So I can sit there and say, like, having compassion, don't get me wrong. I've had my anger phases of different things in life, but okay, how do I see it? Okay, this might not totally belong to me. And if it doesn't totally belong to me, I can just find new habits to be able to shift this way of being, right? Like if we understand there's a spiritual aspect, there's also a neuroplasticity aspect, right? Like our brains are essentially like plastic, and we can mold them through repetition. We've just molded them through repetition on some habits that are not as great for us, and some things that are great. So when I look at something, I try to look at it from a multi-pronged approach. Like if I don't like something that's going on in my life, I have this belief it simply means that there's something I don't know yet.
Okay.
Well, then that means I can learn it. And am I going to fall down? Yeah, of course I am. Like it takes a while for a toddler to be able to run. Like all of these things, like if we look at throughout life, we're like, why would this suddenly need to be simple because I've hit a certain age? It's not. Learning anything's complicated.
Right.
And it takes time and falling and trying again and figuring it out and not staying stuck in it. So I think, you look at what's the problem.
Okay.
And then you say, okay, what can I do? And you can see what hasn't worked before and what has. Because a lot of times we can sort of do the thing that's working. And we're like, it didn't work. Like that's what would kill me about my mom. Like she was always on like a million different diets and it's like none of them work. I'm like, well, they're all extreme and crazy. But, and I noticed that as a kid, but none of it's done consistently.
Right.
And some of it couldn't be done consistently because it was some weird, like nobody should live like that. You need to enjoy your life a little bit. But I think when you see that it's consistency, it's changing a new way. It's also just saying like, who's already ahead in the race that I could learn from, right? So having a community of like-minded women who they might be, I'm not the most tech savvy person, but I've learned.
Right. So finding a mentor or finding somebody that
finding a coach or finding a friend or doing a trade. Like, hey, you're great at like clothes and, I'd be like, ooh, teach me this and maybe I'll teach you recipes, whatever. Like,
I am great
make it
at
fun,
clothes, by
right?
the way.
No, you're talking about,
and I'm not good at recipes.
Right.
Are you?
I am.
Okay.
But, I wasn't always. I chose to like become that. I chose to like embody that. So I think if we make it less like, oh, this is like my branding. This is like, I think there's all this stuff about identity. And it's like your identity is ever changing if you want it to be. And I think sometimes we lock down on like, well, this is who I am. I'm like, says who? I mean, if you want that to be, great. But I don't know. I want to keep growing. I want to keep growing till I'm in my 80s and 90s. And that inspires me.
No, I mean, absolutely. And those tools are so great because they're very action oriented, which I love. They're not you just sit here and there are things that you can do like with the manifesting and imagery and imagination. Those are things that I teach people where, okay, where do you want to be? What kind of relationship do you want to have? And what does that feel like?
Yeah.
Right. And what does the person look like and what are you doing? So you start with the imagery and your imagination, creating those visual pictures in your mind, and then all of a sudden, right, your action follows, and then you start manifesting those.
And also you have to check yourself, because often when we're on the brink of manifesting something is when the test comes. Right? Like, especially if it's a big change, a big life change. Like, are you going to, you suddenly want a healthy relationship and you've always had things that were maybe more dysfunctional. And, now you're with somebody and being vulnerable is really scary, or there's something in it that it doesn't feel at ease. Well, just because this doesn't feel easy doesn't mean run away. Sometimes we have to go through the fire of the test. And it's like, okay, you're going to be tested. And are you going to truly shift that way of being so that you don't go backwards? And I think that that's part of the equation with manifesting as well. Because of course, yes, if you can't visualize it, then you can't fully see it. Like, that you're not going to move forward with it.
Because you don't know what you want.
You don't even know what you want.
Right.
Yeah. It's like vague. Like, I'm going to go on a vacation. Like, okay, where? At home, it's fine. It's staycation. But, you have to know what you want, be specific. Like you mentioned, get into the energy, the feeling of it, the vibration of it, all of that stuff. And then again, I really do think it's like God helps those who help themselves. Like, then take massive action, obsessive action, and release. It's that odd
surrender,
odd like, and whew. It's like either this or whatever in my highest good. Because so many of us think like, oh, no, my life should look like this. And it needs to be like this. And I'm like, but what if you're wrong? How many times have we been in relationships and we're like, oh God, please, I want this relationship to work. And it's and you look back a year or 5 later and you're like, thank you, God, that did not work. And so we assume, and I think relationships are the easiest way to see it. but whether it's like that job that you got fired from, well, guess what? Maybe you needed to learn a lesson. And maybe that forced you to go become an entrepreneur. Or maybe it like made you have more gratitude for the job that you did have. Like, it's like, it's reframing those obstacles and saying, what can I learn from them? What marrow of information can I learn from it? What blessing can I learn from it? And then move forward.
Right. Instead of having that hindsight where you're like, oh, like, you beat yourself up.
Yeah.
Why did I stay so long?
Yeah.
Why was, you know what I mean? And I wanted to stay with him and, this is crappy, but to be able to look at it.
Yeah.
And there was a lesson in it.
Yeah.
There's a lesson in everything.
Yeah.
And when you were talking about where you're on the brink of manifestation, or you're on the brink of that thing.
Especially if it's big.
And you feel uncomfortable, a lot of the times that there is fear attached.
Yeah.
So the fear of what, and I often tell myself, what's the worst that can happen, right? I'll fall or I'll fail or somebody will be mean or somebody won't like me. I can handle that. I've handled that before.
Right.
So then I'm like, oh.
Right. But like an addict who obsessively can't stop thinking about fill in the blank, or like someone with an eating disorder who can't stop obsessing on whatever their issue with their body is, right? That seems normal until it's taken away. So we have these things where it seems normal that we have all this chaos in our brain, like someone who's agoraphobic or someone who's whatever their fears are. They don't know what it's like to not live with that. Same with someone who has extreme trauma. They don't know what it's like to not have that. Nothing's going to work for me. And it's all a self-protection mechanism, or it's all something that's just, again, with neuroplasticity, it's been wired in a way that's like not great. And so you have to do things to shift out of that wiring. So doing that is going to be sometimes wildly uncomfortable.
And knowing where to go. And that's kind of what you were saying earlier, which is like identifying it, or like, what is this fear coming from? Or what is this? And then where do I go with this fear? Where do I take it?
It's the same like someone with depression. If they're always, if they can't see that there's the sun beyond the clouds, that doesn't mean you should always have a sunny disposition every moment, because that's not validating the human experience. But what are these things that are sucking all of our energy, that we're obsessing on, that are wasting all of this time and energy and keeping us stuck? Or we think we're visualizing and manifesting, and in reality, we're not. We're actually worrying more than we're manifesting. We're actually creating what we don't want because of what we're thinking about, over and over and over again.
And that can take you down the wrong road also.
Yes.
You were talking, I remember at the retreat, you were talking about focus, and you were talking about like goals.
Yeah.
Could you walk me through that really quick? Do you remember what I'm talking about? Because you were talking. There was like a couple steps.
Oh, okay. I'll
it was
figure
goal
it out.
setting.
Yeah.
See, I remember.
I know, but I'm trying to figure out exactly what I said. So yes, a big part of like my guidebook, Manifesting Your Mission, is goal oriented. So there's definitely like the woo woo part, which clearly we like we're all in that. But the goal setting, the more like practical, here's how I do it, here's how I time block it, here's how I hold myself accountable to it. It's just another skill, right? Of how do we take this thing that is not yet our way of being, break it down, and then prioritize it in our calendar. Because if it's not in our calendar, and if it's not something that we're willing to put our time and money into, it's just not going to happen. So then you have to be real with yourself. Like, is it something I really want? Or is it just like, that would be nice? And again, something that's just more of an obvious, when someone's like, I want to get fit. Okay, like, do you want to do bikini competitions? That is a certain level of commitment. Or do you just want to feel better in your jeans? Or somewhere in between. Like, what does that mean to you? And what are you actually willing to do? Because you might say, I'm going to be on vacation a lot and I'm eating ice cream or whatever. You're like, then girl, you are not going to be bikini competition ready, because those girls are eating chicken and doing twice a day workouts.
But can that be kind of tailored to sort of what you were saying before too, which you were talking about, like taking the action, and manifesting and then not quite knowing. Could you do it that way?
Yes, you can. I think you can go about it in a couple different ways. And, it kind of depends on who you are and how you go. But like, even a lot of the stuff that I create, I get downloads a lot. So I have to jot it down because of mom brain. Like, I don't remember anything.
I don't remember anything, and I don't have the mom brain anymore. So what's my excuse? We have another excuse. It starts with an M.
Yes, but we're not going to mention
No.
the M right now
No.
because that's, we're manifesting.
Right. That's the word.
But
Yep,
really,
wink.
I think it's also being thorough, right? Like we write things down to be thorough. So I'll get a download or notice something, and then I'll take immediate either action toward it, or I'll put it down to be done later, and then I will figure out when I'm going to do it. And so by having that, being open to creativity, being open to, that creative energy, a lot of times I'm like sitting at a light and I'm like, oh, I gotta jot it down. Okay, keep going. But I nourish that by consistently paying attention to the kismet moments, consistently paying attention to, serendipity. What are the blessings that flow? And then I need something, and then the person walks into my life. But again, I'm also staying at a frequency and staying aware. So many of us, we have so much, so many times we don't manifest what we want because we numb too often. Like, how are we numbing? And it is okay to numb, because again, the human experience is complicated, but to what degree and how often? And, our beautiful cell phones, which we don't have them right now because they would be disturbing us, but they can be such a blessing if used in the right way, but they can completely take us off track if we don't set limits for ourselves, because we're working against AI. We're working against AI that's wanting to manipulate our eyeballs so we can be consumers. So, what are we doing? Whether that's, how do we numb? How do we not feel? How do we just even look around in the world? I mean, now
And that's something that they could add into their daily thing, because notice all the women now they were very excited that they're doing yoga, doing all these spiritual practices, but how to stay, and it's a challenge for me too.
Yeah.
How to stay present.
Yeah.
How to stay in the moment to receive and to see the beauty that's happening around us when we are getting the stimulus from everything.
Yeah. I think we don't realize the amount of stimulus that we're getting. I was recently in Montana just last week, and it was so crazy to see how different it was from Los Angeles, from California, where there's just so many people. I mean, not in all parts of California, but at least where I live, there's so many people everywhere. There's billboards and signs. Everything's trying to get your attention, and then I'm being text messaged like I'm an OB, and everything's, someone's about to go into surgery. Like everything's urgent and important.
Why
It's like,
is that?
it's not.
Yeah.
It's not, this is something that would have taken me days to get back to you about, or not at all. But I think that, when I was in Montana, just seeing that there's not that many people. You're in nature. You're connecting with the horse, riding a horse. Like I had more silence. And we're not with nature as much now. We have all of these, frequencies coming from our gadgets, which are all great. But again, how do we unplug from them consistently? And it doesn't have to be some crazy ritual that takes 30 minutes, 2 hours a day, But how do you take something small so you get grounded? And then how do you set in your calendar when it's time to reground before you go pick up your kid from school? Or you need to go see your spouse and turn it on and not be just depleted. Depleted, or ugh, what did you want?
That is definitely a challenge. And I think everybody has their unique way of getting connected and getting grounded. Like you were saying, Montana was being in the silence for you.
Yeah.
For me, I love the silence as well. I love to be in nature. I'm very connected with color, with music, with a high vibration music. All of a sudden I'm like, it's like an instant. So kind of finding that thing that gets you there.
Yeah. I mean, even simply make a list. What are the things that make me feel grounded?
I love that idea.
And then
I never thought about that.
Then sprinkle it in. Sprinkle it into your calendar. You have a busy week. Okay, but you can't always be sprinting. And I think now everything feels like an obligation. You just, I need to say, and I know other women too, okay, is this an obligation really? Is this the priority? It cannot all be a priority. Otherwise we will get sick, and then life forces us to slow down. So life either will force us to slow down, or we can go at a more gentle pace. It's like whenever you're late and frustrated, even coming here, I was like, where is parking? And then of course, what did I attract? Someone's honking at me. I could, and I'm like, okay, yeah, because I'm at that frequency of being disrupted and not in flow. And when I am more in flow, I'll arrive at the perfect time. A parking spot will open up. It's more like, okay, but I have to consciously choose to be aware of what am I putting out there?
Right.
And is it perfect? No.
Yeah, and not blaming everybody around us, because when that happens to me, I go, what the heck? What's wrong with everybody?
Oh, I did.
Right.
I did.
They're all aggressive.
And I was like,
they're all
how
crazy.
funny.
They're all whack
It's
jobs.
everybody
And why
else.
are these weird people talking to me? Well, maybe I'm a little weird.
Maybe I'm having
off
a little
balance,
moment. Yeah.
right?
Maybe I'm
And then let's blame it on the moon. We blame, but
No.
you're right. We got to like take notice to.
I'm all about personal accountability. I really do believe, like, there are things that are outside of, my control, clearly, right? Life has its evolution and things that are happening, but I really try to take full and total responsibility for the results in my life. And with that comes a lot of empowerment, because it's like, if I don't like something, then what can I do to change it? And again, that just means if I don't know something, then it just means I get to learn something.
Yeah, that is such good advice. I wish more people, I have friends that have been in different relationships where I've got one particular friend. I said, I think I've heard this story for 7 years.
Yeah.
So if you don't like it, then do something about it.
Yeah. But we also then have to go to the root, because if we keep going in the same cycle of like a bad relationship, let's say, usually there's the self-love, and also not looking at what are you bringing to the table? And why are you continually attracted to people who do X?
Yeah. And I wish I had more patience with people. Because, I'm like, okay, we've had the same conversation for, of course she'll call me again. She's like, but you're such a good listener. I'm like, but I'm telling you the same thing.
Yeah.
But she's got to take the accountability.
Yes. Well, my friends know, don't call me unless you want, like, let's figure it out.
Oh,
let's figure it out. Otherwise, go talk to a therapist.
Oh, I like that. That's like a nice boundary thing.
Yeah. Like, I'll listen.
Can I leave that on my voicemail?
Maybe.
Press 1 if you have a problem, and press 2 to, I don't know, I'll connect you with the therapist.
Right. Or 3, here, I will charge you.
Yeah.
But no, I can be very understanding to a certain point, but unless I'm getting paid to listen, even when I do, it's like, okay, but then let's come with practical steps to move you forward.
Right. Because you want it to be productive.
Let's be productive with this limited amount of time we have on this planet.
Yeah.
So we're not all of our beautiful creative energy is being sucked into problems that are often within our control to fix. We just might not like the ways in which we have to fix them.
Right, right. Well, thank you so much for coming today. I feel like we could talk more about like the tools, the toolbox, and how to handle certain situations, because we just need some of those. Okay, that's fine. Tell me what to do. I'll do it. Just write it down. Give me a handbook.
Yeah.
So
I have one. It's called Manifesting Your Mission.
There we go. See? Good segue into that. Okay, where can they find that on your Instagram, or how can people find that?
I'm on Instagram. It's Brianna Brown Keen. And then my website for all the Manifesting Your Mission is manifestingyourmission.org. My nonprofit is thenewhollywood.org. And then my acting website, which connects all of them, is briannabrown.keen.com. But
and that's Outer Banks, not Outer Limits.
Yeah, but you go to your outer limits when you go to Outer Banks.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So, but yeah, manifestingyourmission.org.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thanks again. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.